The moment Marcus Reed walked into the private scholarship interview, the room went quiet in a way that felt almost planned. 3 people sat behind a long glass table inside one of the most expensive schools in Boston. Their suits were perfect, their faces were cold, and their eyes moved over Marcus like they were checking whether he had entered the wrong building. Marcus was 18, black, tall, quiet, and wearing the only suit he owned. His mother had ironed it twice that morning. His shoes were polished, but old. His folder was neat, but the edges were slightly bent from the bus ride. He had spent 2 hours getting there because his neighborhood was on the other side of the city, far away from the clean streets and golden gates of Westbridge Academy. A woman with silver glasses looked at his application and said, "Marcus Reed." "Yes, ma'am," Marcus said. She did not smile. "You are here for the Harrington Future Leaders Scholarship." "Yes, ma'am." The man beside her leaned back in his chair and looked at Marcus's shoes. "This scholarship is extremely competitive. Most students who apply come from advanced programs, private tutoring, international leadership camps, and families with strong academic backgrounds." Marcus held his folder closer to his chest. "I understand, sir." The third interviewer, a younger man with a red tie, tapped his pen against the table. "Your school is South Boston Public High." "Yes, sir." He raised his eyebrows. "That school has had some serious performance issues." Marcus swallowed. "It has challenges, but we also have good teachers." The woman gave a small laugh, not loud enough to be called rude, but sharp enough to hurt. "That is a very generous way to describe it." Marcus felt his face grow warm, but he stayed calm. He had promised his mother he would not let anyone make him angry today. He had promised her he would speak with respect, no matter what. She had stood in the kitchen before sunrise, fixing his tie with tired hands, and said, "Baby, sometimes people will test your spirit before they test your mind. Don't give them the satisfaction of seeing you break." So Marcus sat down when they told him to sit. He placed his folder on his lap. He kept his back straight. The woman looked at the first page again. "Your grades are excellent, thank you, but your background is unusual for this scholarship." Marcus waited. The man in the red tie said, "Let's be honest. A 4.0 from your school is not the same as a 4.0 from Westbridge." Marcus looked him in the eye. "I worked hard for every grade." "I'm sure you did," the man said, but his voice made it sound like he was not sure at all. The older man opened another page. "You wrote here that you want to study biomedical engineering." "Yes, sir." Marcus took a breath. "My younger sister has a heart condition. When she was little, I used to sit beside her hospital bed and watch the machines keeping track of her heartbeat. I didn't understand them then, but I knew they mattered. I want to help build better medical devices for children like her." For the first time, the room was silent for a reason other than judgment. The older man looked down at the paper. The woman adjusted her glasses. Then the red tie man said, "That sounds touching, but emotion is not a qualification." Marcus nodded slowly. "I agree. That's why I also completed 2 research projects. One, the City Science Fair, and helped design a low-cost pulse monitor for my school's health clinic." The woman flipped through the pages. "You did this at home?" "Yes, ma'am. Mostly at the public library. My family doesn't have stable internet all the time." The red tie man smiled a little. "So, you expect us to believe you built a medical device in a library?" Marcus opened his folder and slid forward a printed report. "There are photos, test results, and a letter from my science teacher." The man did not pick it up right away. He stared at Marcus instead, like the evidence bothered him more than the claim. The older man finally took the report and glanced through it. His expression changed, but only for a second. "This is impressive," the woman quickly said. "Impressive for his circumstances." Marcus heard the words clearly. For his circumstances. Not impressive because it was good. Not impressive because he was smart. Impressive only because they expected less from someone like him. He kept his hands still. The woman leaned forward. "Marcus, this scholarship covers full tuition, housing, books, mentorship, and a summer program. It is worth more than many families make in several years. Do you understand the responsibility of receiving something like that?" "Yes, ma'am. Because we have to be very careful," she continued. "We cannot award it to someone simply because their story is sad." Marcus felt something twist inside him. "I'm not asking for pity," the red tie man said. "Then what are you asking for? A fair chance?" The room became still again. The older man looked at him. "A fair chance is earned." Marcus nodded. "That's why I came prepared." The red tie man sat forward. "Prepared? Then answer this. If you were placed in a room with students from the best schools in America, students who have had every resource, every course, every connection, what makes you think you could compete?" Marcus did not rush his answer. "Because I have already been competing with less. I studied after working part-time at a grocery store. I finished assignments in hospital waiting rooms. I learned coding from free videos and old books. I missed sleep, but I never missed the goal. I don't think struggle makes me better than anyone, but it did teach me how to keep going when things are hard." The older man seemed interested now, but the woman's face remained cold. She said, "Some people confuse survival with leadership." Marcus looked at her. Sometimes survival is where leadership starts. The red tie man laughed under his breath. That sounds like something from an essay, Marcus said softly. It sounds like my life. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then the door opened. A school assistant stepped inside and whispered something to the woman. The woman frowned. Now the assistant nodded. He said he needs to observe. The woman looked annoyed but tried to hide it. Fine. An older black man entered the room quietly. He wore a dark navy suit, simple glasses, and carried himself with calm authority. His hair was gray at the temples. He did not introduce himself. He simply took a seat in the corner of the room, behind Marcus, where the interviewers could see him, but Marcus could not see his face clearly. Marcus assumed he was another administrator. The mood in the room shifted. The red tie man straightened. The woman sat up a little taller. The older interviewer cleared his throat. Let's continue, the woman said, suddenly more polite, but not toward Marcus. Her politeness was aimed at the man in the corner. She looked back down at Marcus's file. Your essay says your father is not listed in your household. Marcus froze for half a second. My mother raised me, he said. The red tie man tilted his head. No father involved. Marcus kept his voice steady. No, sir. The woman sighed as if she had found the missing weakness that creates certain concerns. Marcus blinked. Concerns, stability, she said. Guidance, support systems. Students from difficult homes sometimes struggle when they enter elite environments. Marcus looked at the table. He thought of his mother working night shifts at the hospital cafeteria. He thought of her falling asleep at the kitchen table with bills beside her. He thought of how she still found time to quiz him before exams, even when her eyes were red from exhaustion. He lifted his head. My home is not difficult because my father is absent. My home is strong because my mother never quit. The man in the corner shifted slightly. The older interviewer looked uncomfortable. That was not meant as an insult. Marcus nodded, though it had felt exactly like one. The red tie man said, Tell us something honestly. Do you believe this scholarship should be used to reward achievement or to fix inequality? Marcus looked at him carefully. It should reward achievement, but achievement should be measured with the truth in mind. If two people climb a mountain and one has boots, a guide, and a clear path, while the other climbs barefoot in the rain, you can still measure who reached the top, but you should not pretend the climb was the same. The woman's mouth tightened. That is a political answer. No, ma'am, Marcus said. It is a human answer. The older man in the corner looked down, but Marcus did not see the small smile that crossed his face. The interview went on for another 20 minutes. They asked Marcus about test scores, leadership, discipline, teamwork, and failure. Every time he answered well, someone tried to make the answer smaller. When he mentioned tutoring younger students, they asked if it was official. When he mentioned building a device, they asked if someone else had helped. When he mentioned being class valedictorian, they asked how many students were in his class. When he mentioned wanting to change medicine, the red tie man asked if he had realistic expectations. Finally, the woman closed the folder. Marcus, she said, you are clearly a hard-working young man. Marcus already knew what was coming. People always said hardworking right before they refused to say qualified. She continued, but we have applicants from families that have prepared them for this level of opportunity since childhood. We have students with stronger Polish, stronger networks, stronger cultural fit. Marcus repeated the words in his mind. Cultural fit, the red tie man added. You may be a good candidate for a local grant, something more suited to your environment. The older interviewer looked down. He did not speak. Marcus's chest tightened, but he did not beg. He did not defend himself again. He had already given them everything. His grades, his work, his story, his dreams, his respect. He slowly picked up his folder. Thank you for your time. The woman looked relieved, as if the hard part was over. But before Marcus could stand, the man in the corner spoke. Please stay seated, Marcus. His voice was calm, but it filled the room. The interviewers turned toward him immediately. The woman forced a smile. Mr. Harrington, we were just finishing. Marcus's hand froze on his folder. Mr. Harrington, the Harrington Future Leaders Scholarship. The older black man stood up. Yes, he said. I heard. The woman's face changed color. The red tie man stopped tapping his pen. The older interviewer sat perfectly still. Marcus slowly turned around. The man looked at him with eyes that were serious, warm, and painfully familiar in a way Marcus could not explain. My name is David Harrington, the man said. I created this scholarship 22 years ago. Marcus could barely breathe. David Harrington turned toward the panel. And I created it for students exactly like Marcus Reed. The woman opened her mouth. Sir, we were only evaluating you. We're evaluating his shoes, Mr. Harrington said. His school, his neighborhood, his mother, his missing father, his accent, his poverty, everything except the strength sitting right in front of you. Nobody answered. Mr. Harrington looked at the red tie man. You asked whether he could compete with students who had every resource. I have a better question. Could any of them have done what he did with almost none? The red tie man stared at the table. Mr. Harrington picked up Marcus's report from the glass table. This device he built was sent to my foundation 3 months ago by a public clinic. They did not know the student's name at first. They only said a teenager had created something simple, cheap, and useful enough to help nurses check children faster during busy hours. Marcus's eyes widened. Mr. Harrington turned to him. That clinic serves my old neighborhood, Marcus whispered. Your old neighborhood? Yes, he said. The same streets people told me I would never escape. The room felt smaller now, as if every insult that had been thrown at Marcus had bounced back and landed on the people who spoke them. Mr. Harrington continued, when I was your age, I sat in a room like this. A man told me I was bright for a boy like me. A woman told me I lacked polish. Another person asked who had really written my essay. I remember every word. That is why this scholarship exists. Not to reward polish. Not to protect privilege. It exists to find brilliance where people are trained not to look. Marcus's eyes burned, but he refused to cry in front of them. The woman said quietly, Mr. Harrington, we did not mean to disrespect the foundation. He looked at her. You disrespected the student. That is worse. Silence. Then Mr. Harrington turned back to Marcus. His voice softened. Marcus, your application was one of the strongest we received this year. Your interview today was not fair, but your answers were extraordinary. You showed intelligence, patience, dignity, and courage. Marcus gripped the folder with both hands. Mr. Harrington smiled. The scholarship is yours, if you want it. Marcus stared at him. For a second, he thought he had misheard. Then the words reached him fully. The scholarship is yours. He tried to speak, but nothing came out. The older interviewer finally looked up. Congratulations, Marcus. The words sounded small after everything that had happened. Marcus nodded, but his eyes stayed on Mr. Harrington. Thank you, sir. Mr. Harrington stepped closer. Don't thank me for opening a door you already earned. Walk through it. Then build more doors behind you. Marcus finally stood. His legs felt weak, but his spirit felt stronger than it had when he entered. The room that had tried to shrink him now felt too small to hold him. Outside the building, his mother was waiting near the gate in her work uniform. She had come straight from her shift, still wearing her cafeteria badge, her hair tucked under a scarf, her hands folded nervously. When Marcus walked out, she searched his face. Well, she asked. Marcus tried to stay calm, but his voice broke. I got it, Mom. For 1 second, she did not move. Then she covered her mouth with both hands and started crying. Marcus rushed into her arms, and she held him like he was still the little boy she used to carry through hospital hallways. People walked past them. Some stared, some smiled, but Marcus did not care. His mother whispered, I knew they couldn't deny what God put in you. Marcus closed his eyes. They tried. She pulled back and looked at him. But they failed. Behind them, through the glass doors, Mr. Harrington watched quietly. He saw the young man hugging the mother who had carried him through every hard year. He saw the future he had been trying to protect when he built the scholarship. And he knew the panel had not just interviewed a student that morning, they had revealed themselves. 1 week later, Westbridge Academy held its scholarship ceremony in a grand auditorium filled with donors, teachers, students, and parents. Marcus stood on stage in the same suit, but this time, he did not feel out of place. His mother sat in the front row, crying before anyone even said his name. Mr. Harrington stepped to the microphone and looked out over the crowd. This year, he said, our foundation was reminded why opportunity must never depend on appearance, background, or comfort. Talent does not always arrive wearing expensive shoes. Genius does not always speak with a polished accent. Leadership does not always come from privilege. Sometimes it comes from a crowded apartment, a tired mother, a public library, and a young man who refuses to quit. The audience became silent. Then he said, Marcus Reed is not receiving this scholarship because we feel sorry for him. He is receiving it because he earned it. The room exploded in applause. Marcus looked at his mother. She was standing now, clapping harder than anyone, tears shining on her face. For the first time that day, Marcus let himself smile. And as he stepped forward to accept the award, he understood something he would carry for the rest of his life. Some people will look at your skin and see a limit. Some will look at your struggle and see weakness. Some will look at where you came from and decide where you belong. But their judgment is not your destiny. Their prejudice is not your ceiling. And when you keep walking with dignity, sooner or later, the truth will enter the room and speak louder than every person who tried to silence you.